The principle of common region is one of the Gestalt principles, which explain how people decide whether several individual elements are part of the same group and are therefore related in some way. More specifically, the principle of common region says that items within a boundary are perceived as a group and are assumed to share some common characteristic or functionality. Adding a container to a collection of objects will separate them from other items, even if those other items share similar characteristics. To demonstrate it simply, let's look at a collection of 15 circles. If I add a rectangle around these 3 circles in the middle, our eyes will associate them as part of a group. So even though each circle shown is the same color, because these 3 circles are nested inside of a container, we associate them as separate from the others. If I move that container to the bottom of the image instead of the middle, now these circles are associated as a group. And even if I change the rectangle to have a slight border and no color fill, I'm still going to associate the circles within as a group. Containers help create distinct, organized sections, which make it easy for users to recognize the basic structure of an interface. Headers, footers, and navigation panels commonly use containers to visually separate them from the rest of the UI. People rely on these visible boundaries to understand which elements are related. You can create containers using a border around the edges, a background color, or even just a simple pattern. When using background colors or patterns, just make sure that the text color is still readable and meets contrast guidelines. The principle of common region will usually overpower other grouping principles, such as proximity or similarity, because of its strong visual cue. Because of this, it can be a powerful tool when you need to contain several different types of UI elements, or when you're not able to adjust the white space in between objects. Let's take this example of a data table. I've got several rows and columns of information, as well as buttons that represent actions that I can take. At a glance, this can feel like an overwhelming amount of data that's difficult to differentiate. But if I add a light background color to every other row, commonly referred to as zebra striping, now the individual rows become clearer. Before adding borders or backgrounds to a design, consider if they're actually necessary to understand the grouping. If the grouping is understood just by adding or removing some white space, adding those additional elements may end up cluttering the design. The principle of common region is everywhere in UI design. Once you start recognizing it, you'll see it constantly. Grouping elements in a container is a strong visual cue that can help associate items together when adding or removing white space doesn't suffice.